It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as AEW-bound Ruby Soho leaves several clues for her next destination, Braun Strowman has teased a big announcement for this Wednesday, and Adam Cole's WWE status has been leaked. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first, let's take a look at the ratings for last Friday's episode of AEW Rampage, which was the third edition of the new TNT show. The audience dropped significantly from the prior First Dance, which saw the AEW debut of CM Punk, with last week's show more on par with the debut episode from 2 weeks ago. Compared to last week, the overall viewership dropped 36% from 1.129 million to 725,000 viewers. This is just 18,000 less than the premiere episode, which overall shows a steady ship. The key demo wasn't too far off the debut episode either, drawing a rating of 0.34 compared to the 0.53 from the First Dance and the 0.3 from 2 weeks ago. So this is in fact up 0.4 from week 1 and represents roughly 434,000 viewers between the age of 18 and 49. Rampage was also ranked number 1 for the night on the cable top 150. This weekend, we'll see yet another Casino Battle Royale, with AEW this time presenting a women's edition on the AEW All Out buy-in show. 2 more participants have been announced as former AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida, her former mentor Emi Sakura, as well as Jade Cargill all join the field with a chance of becoming number 1 contender for Britt Baker's AEW Women's World Championship. The other participants announced so far include Julia Hart, Big Swole, The Bunny, Thunder Rosa, Red Velvet, Tay Conti, Penelope Ford, Diamante, and Nyla Rose. This means that 12 of the 21 women have already been announced. The buy-in show will air immediately before this Sunday's AEW All Out pay-per-view at 7 PM Eastern. The winner will then face the winner of the Britt Baker vs Chris Statlander match from later on in the night, which is of course for the women's title, with the resulting title match happening in the near future. Salt of the Earth MJF took part in an interview with Inside the Ropes this week to discuss a number of topics, including his wrestling inspirations. When asked who inspired him to enter the wrestling business, MJF was quick to respond Rowdy Roddy Piper and put him over as the only wrestler on par with himself. And he said, "Roddy Piper. Before me, I'm going to say the only person who would equal the ability to get a visceral reaction from the crowd was Piper. Piper made me fall in love with wrestling. And if I was able to have an opportunity to have promos back and forth with Roddy, and then a match, that I know would be visceral as all hell. I think that would probably go down as the greatest match in the history of professional wrestling." And forever humble is our Max. MJF then made a surprising admission, revealing that his AEW All Out opponent, Chris Jericho, is one of his favourite heels, despite the two being locked in a bitter on-screen rivalry, and he said, "Chris Jericho was up there, as much as I hate to admit it. I would say Chris Jericho is most certainly up there. I would throw in Tully Blanchard, I would throw in Eddie Gilbert, I would throw in Ric Flair, and I would also throw in Chris Candido." Jericho and MJF will battle this Sunday in a match billed as the final fight, with MJF currently sitting at a record of 3 wins and 0 losses in bouts with Le Champion. If Jericho fails to win this time around, his AEW in-ring career will be over. Can MJF send one of his idols packing? We will soon find out. After a series of hype videos posted to social media, Ruby Soho has finally arrived in New York. The vignettes have shown the former Ruby Riott attempt to reach the city that never sleeps via a train, which she missed, and then by stealing a car, which broke down. The latest video was laced with a number of Easter eggs which hint towards her next move in wrestling, with her reported to be signing with AEW. So let's look at the hints and be sure to let me know if I missed any. First, Ruby can be seen spray painting Heartless on the wall before being stopped by police sirens. She then walks away and past a man who is also tagging the wall, writing the phrase, "The riot is over." Of course, a reference to her WWE name, Ruby Riott. Ruby then tries to enter a punk bar and is asked for ID. She first shows a card which shows the name Heidi Lovelace, which is her former independent name before she was signed by WWE, and the expiration date of that ID was August 31st, which signifies the end of her non-compete clause. claws. She shows a new ID with the name Ruby Soho written on it, of course her new ring name. While all this is going on, the song Ruby Soho by Rancid is playing in the background, the song in which she is now named after. At the end, text flashes for a brief second reading destination with 7 blank spaces for letters. Speculation has spread that her heading to New York could hint at a debut at the Arthur Ashe Stadium AEW show where they will hold Dynamite Grand Slam. My own theory was that her traveling from Orlando to New York represented her move to the main roster. WWE in the territory days was referred to as New York. It's worth noting that Chicago is 7 letters long, the home of this weekend's AEW All Out pay-per-view, so perhaps she's going from Orlando to New York to Chicago. I guess it won't be too long until we find out, with the show just days away, but let me know what you think of my theory in the comments down below. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you drop a like on the video as it helps me out a lot, and make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head hopefully towards 100,000 subscribers. But now, let's press play on the video. Braun Strowman is another free agent whose future is currently unknown, although he has taken to Twitter this week to make several posts hinting that he has decided upon his next move. Much like Ruby Soho, Braun Strowman's non-compete clause has also ended on the 31st of August, meaning he is now officially a free agent and able to sign elsewhere. On August 27th, Strowman would tweet, "Remember in life, if you're going to do something, make sure you make an impact. Carve your name in stone, #Titan. Of course, the word impact instantly springs to mind Impact Wrestling, and the name Titan is referenced in a number of the posts, and could be a hint that this will be his new ring name wherever he decides to go. He then seemed to coin a phrase from EC3, one of his close friends who was also released from WWE but last year, and said, "Sometimes life can get hectic. Remember, you control your own narrative. Live your life how you want. This is my life and I live by my rules." Of course, control your narrative is the EC3 hint, but it's unknown if this is a suggestion that he'll be joining EC3 in Ring of Honor, or perhaps he's just taken inspiration from an old friend. On top of this, he seems to be using the term rise as his catchphrase, releasing a shirt with the term written on the chest. And most importantly, he teased an announcement tomorrow night at noon when he added, "Wednesday at noon." Due to this teased announcement happening on the same day as AEW Dynamite, it's of course led many to speculate that Strowman is to become All Elite, but I wouldn't necessarily be so sure. He likely knows that this will get people talking, bringing more attention to whatever the announcement may be. Either way, I think there's many possible promotions that could snap him up, with it being reported that MLW have been in talks, as well as Impact Wrestling EVP Scott D'Amore stating that we're on the road to Braun for Glory, a clear tease that he could be Impact bound with the Bound for Glory pay-per-view on the horizon. So whether it be Ring of Honor, MLW, Impact Wrestling or AEW, I personally look forward to seeing how he gets on in a non-WWE environment, and of course I'll bring you any further updates on his future as they come. Next, we have an update regarding the Adam Cole situation, whose WWE contract expired last Friday following his final NXT match against Kyle O'Reilly at NXT TakeOver 36. According to PW Insider, an internal memo was sent out to talent within WWE informing them that Cole has officially left the company, a message that was sent via email. This now means Adam Cole is a free agent and is able to sign with another wrestling promotion as soon as he likes. He does not have a non-compete clause, which is typically 30 days for NXT talent, which opens up the possibility of an AEW debut as soon as tomorrow's Dynamite or perhaps Sunday's All Out pay-per-view. Whilst his next destination is still unknown, AEW are rumoured to be interested in him, with a report from Wrestling Observer stating that a deal had been offered. However, this story was denied later by AEW president Tony Khan, but perhaps that was just to avoid any signals of contract tampering. The former NXT champion has been offered a role on WWE's main roster should he decide to re-sign, with creative plans said to have already been pitched. It's certainly going to be interesting to track his next move, with most people expecting him to join his girlfriend and AEW World Champion Britt Baker, as well as his friends in the Elite in All Elite Wrestling. Adam was a regular member of the web series Being the Elite before he signed with WWE in 2017, but was eventually killed off in a comedic skit. AEW champion Kenny Omega and AEW Tag Team Champions the Young Bucks have hinted on social media that Cole could be brought back from the dead, with most significantly the Bucks changing their Twitter bio to a link that took you to a video about seances, which of course is ceremonies to contact the dead. And let me know what you think. Will the dead man rise again? Let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out my video where I discuss 10 Bryan Danielson dream matches in AEW.